Good afternoon, everyone. We're sitting as the Committee of Adjustment today. We do have quorum in that we have 5 committee members present. And I'll call this meeting to order at 2:06 p.m. And we are in the presence of our Secretary Treasurer, Jennifer Kearns. Our land acknowledgement statement. The Township of Hamilton is situated within the traditional territory of the Mississauga, Anishinaabeg, and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. Our work on these lands respectfully acknowledges the resilience and their long-lasting contributions to the area now known as the Township of Hamilton. Jennifer, could you go through our explanation and process of the hearing today, please?
Certainly, through you, Chairman Gibb. We have one minor variance application to date. It is for Carson Oliphant. And the way the public meeting works is that I will give an overview of the application. Afterwards, the chair will ask for those in attendance if they have any questions or comments related to the application. We first ask for those who have objections to the application, then those in support of the application, and then finally from the applicant if they wish to be heard at the meeting. We only have one application today.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next item on our agenda is the confirmation of the agenda. And the prepared motion is that the agenda for the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on December 10th, 2024 be approved. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Bruce, seconded by Mark. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest today? Seeing none, that will be recorded. Approval of the minutes of a previous meeting. And that meeting was October 8th of 2024. Motion reads that the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on October 8th, 2024 be approved. Moved by John, seconded by Larry. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And there's no business arising from those minutes, so we'll move on to new business. Minor variance, as planning have just told us about. Minor variance, we have one today, and it's the application of 0624, part lot 25, concession 8. Jennifer, if you would, please.
Through you, Chairman Gibb, this is an application for a minor variance for property located at 5189 Cook Road in part of lot 25, concession 8. The property is located at the southeast corner of Cook Road. Cook Road goes north-south and then turns east. So this property is located at the corner of the property. It's about 64 meters south of Rice Lake in an area of shoreline, seasonal residential and rural residential uses. Cook Road is a year-round municipally maintained road along the western frontage of the subject property, but when the road turns east, it is a privately maintained road. The applicant has applied for a number of variances to permit that will facilitate the construction of a detached garage on the property. They're looking for a reduction, an increase in the maximum lot coverage of to permit 23%, where 20% is normally permitted. The maximum lot coverage for accessory buildings is 5% under the zoning bylaw. They're looking for 10%. Permitting a building height of 4.9 meters instead of the normally required 4.5 meters for an accessory structure, and permitting a reduced rear yard setback of 2.4 meters instead of the normally required 3 meters, and permitting a reduced interior side yard setback for an accessory building of 1.8 meters instead of the normally required 3 meters. So the subject property is developed with a single detached dwelling and a shed at this point in time. The applicant is proposing to demolish the shed, and the garage will be built in the same location, retaining the same rear setback and interior side setback to the south. So the application was reviewed with consistency to the new provincial planning statement, which came into force on October 20th. The property is located on the Oak Ridges Moraine. The Oak Ridges Moraine conservation plan came into effect in the early 2000s. This lot was developed with a single detached dwelling or cottage dwelling much earlier than that. So it's an existing legal use on the property. And the provincial planning statement allows for accessory uses on developed properties within the Oak Ridges Moraine and in the rural area of the municipality. The provincial planning statement contains policies with respect to servicing. The property is serviced with a private well and a private septic system. Northumberland County Inspection Services requested some additional information from the applicant with respect to the location of the septic system. That information was provided, and Northumberland County Inspection Services commented that they have no concerns with the proposed variances. There are no natural heritage features or natural hazard features on the subject property that would require protection under the provincial planning statement. As I mentioned, the property is located on the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan, which allows existing residential uses to continue and uses accessory to those. The Northumberland County official plan designates the property Oak Ridges Marine Countryside areas, which permits the existing detached dwelling and accessory structures. Similarly, the Hamilton Township official plan designates the property Oak Ridges Marine Countryside on Schedule A. And the purpose of that designation is to encourage agricultural and other rural land uses. The existing dwelling was constructed in the 1970s and predates the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan. The existing use and accessory uses that are permitted in the Oak Ridges Marine Countryside, they're permitted on this subject property. Now, both the Planning Act and the Township Official Plan contain 4 tests for evaluating minor variances. The 4 tests are: the variance must be minor, it must be desirable and appropriate for the development of the use of the land, it must maintain the general intent of the zoning bylaw, and it must maintain the intent of and purpose of the official plan. The first requested variance seeks relief from section 10.3.1 of the zoning bylaw, which permits a maximum lot coverage of 20% in this zone. And the property, this property is evaluated under the zone provisions of the rural residential zone, because that is the zone that existed, limited service residential. That is the zone that existed prior to the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan coming into effect. So it permits a maximum lot coverage of 20%. With the construction of the proposed accessory structure, the property would actually have 23% lot coverage instead of 20%, which is a pretty minor increase numerically for the lot coverage for the property. They've got the house on it. It will have the accessory structure. It's a pretty modest size house on the property. And so the recommendation is that it is a minor increase in lot coverage. It is consistent with the area. There are many accessory structures on properties within this area, and it's in keeping with the area. So it is pretty minor. The second requested variance is seeking relief from the zone provision, which permits a maximum lot coverage of 5% for accessory structures. This accessory structure will actually be 10% of the lot area. It will, while the increase in lot coverage for the accessory structure is twice as much as what is permitted, the maximum lot coverage is only increasing by 3% because it's got a pretty modest size dwelling on the property. So the lot coverage will remain pretty small on the property. So the proposed variance is considered minor. It will remain, the lot coverage will remain slightly above that permitted, but it's still quite low overall. The third requested variance seeks relief from section 10.3.3E of the zoning bylaw, which permits a maximum building height for accessory structures of 4.5 meters, and the applicant will require 4.9 meters. Now, during my discussion with Carson regarding this application, he decided that he was going to apply for this variance because he didn't have the exact height of the structure. He thinks that he will actually comply with the 4.5 meters, but he wasn't quite sure, so he wanted a little leeway just in case when he got his designs, it allowed for a little bit of flexibility there. So the visual impact between a 4.5 and a 4.9 meter accessory structure is pretty minimal. The fourth requested variance seeks relief from section 10.3.3A of the zoning bylaw, which requires a minimum rear yard setback of 3 meters, and the applicant requires 2.4 meters or 8 feet. There's an existing shed that's going to be demolished, and he's going to use that same rear setback for the proposed dwelling. Now, if he hadn't required the other variances, the municipality wouldn't have required a minor variance for that. We would have used the established building line for his rear yard, and same thing for his interior side yard. But since he was applying for the other variances, we decided to just pull this in so it's extra clear. Everything's up front, and he's requesting a reduced rear yard setback of 0.6 meters, the difference of 3 meters and 2.4 meters. And the fifth variance is relief from the interior side yard, as I discussed, with the existing structure being located 1.8 meters from the lot line, and the zone provisions require 3.9 meters. The subject property zoned Oak Ridges Moraine Countryside on Schedule A to the zoning bylaw. However, Schedule M, which is the schedule that we use to determine the zone provisions for the property, shows that the limited service residential zone provisions are the provisions that should be used during the review of applications on the property. So as discussed earlier, the applicant has requested 5 variances to the township zoning bylaw that would allow for the construction of a detached accessory garage to replace an existing shed. The rear and interior side yard setbacks for the existing shed will be retained. However, variances are required as the proposed new building will be larger than the existing shed. The proposed accessory building requires a minor variance for the maximum height provision of permitted is 4.5, and they require 4.9 meters. It's a moderate increase. And finally, we've discussed the lot coverage, and it's a modest increase also. So the application was circulated to a number of agencies. Ganaraska Region Conservation Authority commented that the subject property does not contain any natural hazards and is not regulated by GRCA. Northumberland County had no objection. County Inspection Services had requested additional information that the applicant had provided to them, and then they confirmed that they had no concerns. Hamilton Township Fire Department had no issues. Hamilton Township Building Department had no objection. Hamilton Township Public Works Department had no objection. Notice of the application was circulated to all registered owners of lands within 60 meters of the subject property on November 26th, and a sign was posted on the property on November 22nd. Due to the Canada Post strike, notices were hand-delivered to those with a local mailing address and sent by courier Purelator to the out-of-town addresses. No public comments have been received. So in reviewing the application, staff recommendation is that the variances be approved and that the 4 tests for a minor variance have been addressed, that the requested variances are minor. They maintain the intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and they're desirable and appropriate for the area.
Thank you, Jennifer. Not many people in the audience today, but I believe our owner applicant is with us, and I'll come back to you in a moment. I shall quickly ask, is there anyone other than the owner in favor of the application? Seeing none, is there anyone in opposition to the application? Seeing none, is there anyone seeking clarification? Did I say that twice?
Nope.
Okay, anyone seeking clarification to the application? And seeing none. To our owner, to our applicant, you may wish to speak to the application. That is your opportunity to do so now. Or as we go through the committee, we may have a question that we send your way if that's what you prefer. Okay, go to committee members. Any questions? Any comments? Okay, Mark, please, if you're willing to make a motion.
Yeah, within your Jennifer's conclusion.
Seconder, John? Any further questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion of approval? Carried. Thank you. John?
Just a comment to say, I'm sorry I couldn't get down to your property yesterday because circumstances were unrealistic, so anyways, I reviewed the information twice, so.
Thank you, John. You will receive notice. I'm just not sure how that's gonna happen with maybe electronically. And once the appeal period is passed, you will be eligible for your permit process. Thank you. Next order of business is adjournment. Prepared motion that the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on December 10th, 2024 be adjourned at 2:22 p.m. Moved by Mark, seconded by Bruce. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you.